Hi, very good evening, students. I hope you all are fine, right? All of you stay home, stay safe, learn well. Okay, students, in this class, I am going to start a new chapter, chapter number 10, motion and measurement of distances. Okay, so students, before going to know more about this chapter, okay, first we should know what is motion. Okay, general meaning of motion. Okay, so motion means moving or movement, right? Okay, so the movement of an object is called motion. Okay, so a common characteristics of all the moving bodies is they change their position with the time, right? Okay, so a object is said to be in motion or moving when its position changes with time. Okay, so displacement of objects from one place to another place. Okay, so different modes of transport are used to go from one place to another place. Okay, okay, someone traveled by an train. Okay, and someone traveled by a bus and by a bullock cart. Okay, and also by an aeroplane. Okay, and traveled by an boat, right? Students, now we improved in technology, right? Okay, we like to travel from one planet to another planet, right? Okay, we know about small wheeled vehicles that moved on the soil of Mars and conducted some experiments by scientists, right? Okay, these vehicles were taken by spacecraft all the way to Mars. Okay, students, we also know stories about ancient India and wanted to know how people traveled from one place to another in earlier times. Okay, students, next now I am going to tell story of transport. Okay, so before going to that, we should know what is transport, right? Okay, transport or transportation is the easiest way of the movement of humans, animals and goods from one place to another place. Okay, so long ago people did not have any means of transport, right? Okay, so they used to move only on foot and carry goods on their back. Okay, later on they began to use animals for transportation. Okay, for transport through water routes, boats were used from ancient times. Okay, to begin with, boats were simple logs of wood in which a hollow cavity could be made, right? Okay, so later people learned to put together different pieces of wood and give shapes to boats. Okay, these shapes imitated the shapes of the animals living in water. Okay, so recall our discussions of this streamlined shape of fish in chapter number 8 and 9. Okay, so we know, right? Okay, so the shape of a boat is somewhat like a fish. Okay, the head and tail of the fish are smaller than the middle portion of the body. Okay, the body tapers at both the ends. Okay, this body shape is called a streamlined. Okay, so the shape is such that water can flow around it easily and allow the fish to move in water. Okay, and invention of the wheel made a great change in modes of transport. Okay, the design of the wheel was improved over thousands of years. Okay, so animals were used to pull carts that move on wheels. Okay, until the beginning of the 19th century. Okay, people still depended on animals, boats and ships to transport them from one place to place. Okay, so the invention of steam engine led by the development of new means of transport. Okay, so railroads were made for steam engine driven carriages and wagons. Later came automobiles such as the motor cars, trucks, and buses. Okay, so motorized boats and ships were used as means of transport on water. Okay, the early years of 90s saw the development of aeroplanes. Okay, so these were later improved to carry passengers and goods. Okay, electric trains, monorail, and supersonic aeroplanes and spacecraft are some of the contributions of the 20th century. Okay, students, all of you see here in this picture. Okay, some of the different modes of transport. Okay, are there any of the early modes of transport that are not in use today? No, right. Students, next, how wide is this desk or a table? Okay, how did people know how far they have traveled? Okay, so how will you know whether you can walk all the way to your school or whether you will need to take a bus or a rickshaw to reach your school? And when you need to purchase something, is it possible for you to walk to the market? And how will you know the answers to these questions? Okay, it is often important to know how far a place is. Okay, so that we can have an idea how we are going to reach that place, right? Okay, walk, take a bus or a train, a ship, an aeroplane, or even a spacecraft, right? Okay, sometimes there are objects whose length or width we need to know, right? Okay, so in your classroom, okay, there are large desks, okay, which are to be shared by two students. Okay, so but frequently end up objecting that the other is using a large share of the desk. Okay, on the teacher's suggestion, okay, they decided to measure the length of the desk. Okay, make a mark exactly in the middle of it and draw a line to separate the two halves of desk. Okay, so students are very fond of playing gilly danda. Students, okay, especially for boys, okay, gilly danda with your friends, right? So all of you see here in this picture. Okay, here, okay, how we try to measure the length of the desk using the danda and the gilli, right? Okay, the desk seems to be having a length equal to two danda lengths and two lengths of the gilli, right? Okay, so drawing a line in the middle of the desk leaves each of them happy with a half of the desk equal to a danda and a gilli in length, right? Okay, after a few days, okay, the marked line gets wiped out. Okay, now we have a new set of gilli and danda as okay, he or she lost his old one. Okay, here is how the length of the desk seems to measure using the gilli and danda. Hello. Okay, now when measured with the new set of gilli and danda, the desk length seems to be about two danda lengths, right? One gilli length with a small length still left out. Okay, this is less than one gilli length. Okay, now what? And now how to measure the length of the whole desk? Okay, and can we use a cricket wicket and bails to measure the length or Do you think that this might create a similar problem? Yes, right. Okay. Cricket wicket and bails create a similar problem, right? So one thing they could do is to take a small length of string and mark 2 points on it. Okay, this will be a string length. Okay, they can measure the width of the desk in string length. Okay, how can they use the string to measure distance less than the length of a string? Okay, so they can fold the string and mark it into 1 by 2, 1 by 4 and 1 by 8 string lengths. Okay, so like that we can measure the exact length of the desk using the string, right? And you would say that they should use the scale in their geometry box and solve their problem. Yes, of course, right. So we know about the way people used to measure distances. Okay. So before such standard scales were made, and he has been trying to follow different methods of measuring distances, right? Okay. There are so many occasions when we come across a need to measure lengths and distances. Okay. The tailor needs to measure the length of the cloth to know if it is enough to stitch a kurta, and a carpenter needs to measure the height and width of a cupboard to know how much wood he would need to make its door. The farmer needs to know the length and breadth or the area of his land to know how much seed he can sow and how much water would be needed for his crops, right? Okay, suppose you are asked how tall you are, you want to tell the length of a straight line from the top of your head to the heel of your feet, right? Okay, and how long is this room, how wide is this desk, and how far is it from Delhi to Kanyakumari? Okay, and how far away is the moon from the earth? All these questions have one thing in common, right? Okay, they all concern distance between two places. Okay, the two places may be close enough, like the two ends of a table, or they may be far apart, like Jammu and Kanyakumari. Okay, so students, in next class we are going to know about measurements. Okay, few measurements to see what exactly we need to do, okay, when we measure distances or lengths. Okay, so students, in this class we learnt about motion, right, and a story of transport. So students, if you have any doubt, ask in online session. All of you should follow given worksheet. Thank you, students.